I'm going to call this meeting to order. Cleveland Heights City Council. Go ahead and call the roll call, Addie, please.
Cobb. Maddox.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Russell. Here. Sheets.
Here.
Posh.
Here.
Petrus.
Here.
All right. We don't have any absent members, so we're going to skip that particular line item. Any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Madam President. I'd like to amend the agenda tonight by moving resolution number 250-2025, a resolution honoring Lynn Horowitz, up to section 7 of the agenda under proclamations and honors.
Second? Anybody second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Councilor Maddox.
Thank you, Madam President.
All right, we have 5 minutes that we were asked to approve the work that Clerk of Council Ballister has done. Did anybody have any changes to be made to those minutes? Okay, excellent work. Minutes are approved. Communications from the mayor.
Thank you, Madam President. The first thing I wanted to do was, for a matter of record, sealed bids were received on November 7th, 2025 for project number 25-02, 2025 parking lot repaving project. Geauga Highway Company submitted the lowest bid and the best bid in the amount of $647,000. I'm sorry, $647,237.25. There were 5 other bids, and I will read them. I'm sorry, 4 other bids besides that one. RMH Concrete and Foundations was $655,350.19. Perrin Asphalt was $677,336.55. Carvo Companies was $690,684 and 23 cents, and CA Argesta Construction was $747,502.80. So that is now a matter of record. Second, I wanted to let everybody know that I am looking very seriously at helping resolve the Thunderbolt situation with Jose. We're going to have an internal meeting this week, and then next week we'll bring Jose in and hopefully try to get that resolved. So that's going on. Next, I wanted to talk about snow removal, which a lot of people wanted to talk about this week. We certainly heard from a lot of residents over the holiday weekend, and I certainly understand where residents are coming from. And we certainly want to let them know that we do prioritize safety. We had a meeting this afternoon with the Public Works Director and our Public Properties Director. And we brainstormed all kinds of ways we could move forward and do better. The first snowfall always seems to be a relearning process. And I think we're getting somewhere. We have 9 trucks now. We're going to expand to 11 in a couple of months. I made sure that I let the directors know that on any personnel issues when it comes to the capacity that we're open to perhaps some seasonal employees or whatever we need to do so that we can do this better and faster. I want to just say as a reminder that we do salt the main roads, hills, intersections with stop signs around schools, and this is how we've always done it, except in those areas. We do not salt side streets, but we do plow them. If it keeps snowing, we continue to prioritize keeping Main Street thoroughfares clear, and we only turn to side streets when major roads are safe. Also, I want to just say that the 3rd round of leaf pickup will start very soon. We have not started the 3rd round. We've usually just done 2 rounds. We are doing 3 rounds of leaf pickup, and that'll start as soon as it's supposed to snow tonight, so we won't be able to convert them back over to leaf pickup in the next couple of days, but we will be doing a full 3rd round of leaf pickup. So There it is there. And one more thing I want to do. Thank you for indulging me, Madam President. I have a proclamation honoring Council Vice President Davita Russell for her years of service to the city of Cleveland Heights, and I'm going to read it now. Are you ready? Well, here it is. Whereas Councilwoman Davita Russell has honorably served the residents of Cleveland Heights for 6 years as a member of City Council, including as Vice President of Council, and will complete her term at the end of 2025. And whereas throughout her tenure, Councilwoman Russell has embodied the city's core values of equity, inclusion, and community, bringing to her service a deep commitment to justice, working families, and a responsive government. And whereas she has been a champion for racial and social justice, authoring the city's Crown Act to prohibit discrimination based on natural hairstyles, and co-sponsoring legislation declaring racism a public health crisis, leading to the establishment of the Cleveland Heights Racial Justice Task Force. And whereas Councilwoman Russell has strengthened workers' rights and labor protections, introducing resolutions in support of federal PRO Act, the Social Security Fairness Act, that was a big one that affected me personally, and a Educators Act, and spearheading the recognition of Workers' Memorial Day to honor those who lost their lives on the job. And whereas she has been a steadfast advocate for tenants and homeowners, co-sponsoring the Tenants' Rights Ordinance, organizing quarterly landlord-tenant education forums with the Cleveland Heights Municipal Court and Legal Aid Society, and developing pathway to homeownership programs to promote financial literacy and generational wealth. And whereas Councilwoman Russell has advanced community and economic development initiatives that have revitalized Cleveland Heights neighborhoods, including allocating over $5 million in ARPA funds to support distressed areas and small businesses, promoting infill housing development in the Noble and Caledonia and Taylor communities, and helping attract new investment through zoning updates and redevelopment efforts. And whereas she has elevated community engagement through her signature You Talk, I Listen forums, encouraging open dialogue between residents and city leadership, and through her advocacy for improved city services, such as the creation of a centralized 311 call center, which is a concept that inspired the former Mayor's Action Center. The former Mayor's Action Center. Well, it's hard to say. And whereas she has been a strong voice for equity and inclusion, co-sponsoring resolutions to declare Cleveland Heights a safe haven for transgender and gender non-conforming individuals, and opposing discriminatory legislation that would limit access to gender-affirming healthcare. And whereas Councilwoman Russell has enriched youth and recreational opportunities citywide, championing accessible playgrounds and splash pads at Forest Hill and Dennison Parks, passing legislation allowing people to walk their dogs in city parks, especially a youth advisory. Oops. Is my time up? A youth advisory board, and securing funding for lifeguard positions at the Cleveland Heights University Heights School pool. See, this is what happens when you stay around long. I got a lot more here. Whereas her leadership extends beyond City Council to her decades of service in the labor movement as president of the Coalition of Labor Union Women, vice president of the Ohio AFL-CIO, and executive secretary treasurer of the North Coast Area Labor Federation, representing over 180,000 workers across Ohio. And whereas as founder and CEO of the Ohio Alliance for Community Education, she has dedicated herself to educating and empowering workers, fostering civic engagement, and operating one of Ohio's largest community canvassing initiatives. And whereas Councilwoman Russell's service has been recognized through numerous awards, including honors from the NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and the United Labor Agency, Leadership Cleveland, and Mayor Justin Bibb's Hidden Figures Award. That was pretty recent, among others, celebrating her leadership, advocacy, and lifelong dedication to equity and justice. And whereas beyond her public accomplishments, Councilwoman Russell is admired for her warmth, compassion, and steadfast belief in the power of community, proudly serving as a wife, mother, and grandmother whose legacy of service continues to inspire. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Cleveland Heights hereby expends its deepest appreciation and gratitude to Councilwoman Davita Russell for her distinguished service, steadfast advocacy for working people, unwavering commitment to values of fairness, justice, and community that define Cleveland Heights. And be it further resolved that this council wishes Councilwoman Russell continued success and fulfillment in all her future endeavors, and this proclamation to be entered into the official record of the City of Cleveland Heights as its lasting tribute to her exemplary leadership and service.
Oh, wow. Totally unexpected, totally surprised, truly heartfelt. I want to thank all my council members for acknowledging all my accomplishments, but you helped me with those accomplishments, so I thank you as well. I want to wish all of you well. It's been a great time on council. You've heard me say many times that I was the worst treated council person on council, but you know what? It's been fun. And it is just my time to go. It's time to move on to something bigger and something greater and something that will actually uplift Cleveland Heights, because I will always, 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 always be fighting for the Cleveland Heights residents, for my council members who are still here, for the mayor. Anything you need, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here. I will not be going anywhere soon, but I have something that will be coming up very soon that I will be announcing soon. So I look forward to that announcement and let you know where my further plans will be headed. But thank you so very much. I appreciate that. You all really got me. You got me, Tony. You too, President Larson. And all of you all, thank you so very much. Once again, congratulations to our new elected mayor. And you know what? I am so at peace. I am so happy. And I can't wait to December 15th.
All right. This one is for Councilor Maddox for his 4 years of service to the Cleveland Heights City Council. Whereas the City of Cleveland Heights is strengthened by the dedication of those who devote their time, energy, and commitment to public service. And whereas Councilmember Anthony Maddox Jr. has served the residents of Cleveland Heights for 4 years as a member of the Cleveland Heights City Council, participating faithfully in the legislative, deliberative, and public-facing responsibilities entrusted to him by the community. And whereas during his tenure, Councilmember Maddox consistently demonstrated a steadfast commitment to ensuring that the voices of all Cleveland Heights residents, particularly those historically underrepresented, were heard, acknowledged, and included in civic dialogue. And whereas Councilor Maddox has been a vocal advocate for equitable representation, bringing attention to issues of fairness, community inclusion, and the importance of broad participation in the democratic process. And whereas he has championed transparency in government, encouraging the open exchange of information, the elevation of community concerns, and ongoing public engagement into city decision-making. And whereas Councilmember Maddox's active participation in council proceedings through discussion, debate, and examination of matters brought before the body reflects his seriousness of purpose and dedication to carrying out the duties of elected office. And whereas the city recognizes that public service requires perseverance, personal sacrifice, and a steadfast commitment to the principles of representative government, and wishes to acknowledge Councilmember Maddox's contributions in these respects. And whereas the conclusion of his term marks an opportunity to express the city's sincere gratitude for his years of service and to wish him continued success in future endeavors. Now, therefore, I, Gail Larson, Council President of the City of Cleveland Heights, do hereby recognize and commend Anthony Maddox Jr. for his 4 years of dedicated service on the Cleveland Heights City Council, for his advocacy on behalf of equitable participation in our civic life, and for his commitment to transparent and engaged governance. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Cleveland Heights to be affixed on this first day of December 2025. I have one more green folder. This one is for Mr. Lenny Horowitz. And so I'd like, if any has family members who'd like to go with him, I'd really appreciate it. How come you were part of these years? I'm sure you were part of these years. This is our resolution number 250-2025. A resolution expressing appreciation to Len Horowitz for his many years of outstanding service to the city and its residents, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure. No waiting 30 days. Whereas Len Horowitz has been a devoted and active member of the Cleveland Heights community for more than 50 years, demonstrating extraordinary dedication and commitment to the values and vitality of the city. And whereas throughout his decades of public service, Len has contributed immeasurably to the betterment of Cleveland Heights in a wide variety of roles, including as a small business owner, community advocate, city council member, committee chair, and planning commission. And whereas Len helped shape Cleveland Heights through his leadership and engagement, from founding 2 local businesses to serving on the Community Improvement Awards Committee, chairing the Local Development Corporation, co-chairing the Recreation Bond Levy campaign, serving as a member of City Council, and most recently as a valued member of the Planning Commission. And whereas in the past 26 years, Len has been a steady and trusted presence on the Planning Commission, offering not only his extensive knowledge of planning and development matters, but also the historical context and practical wisdom that come only from decades of civic experience. And whereas his colleagues on the Planning Commission have benefited greatly from his quiet confidence, thoughtful analysis, and deep institutional memory, attributes that have ensured the Commission's deliberations were thoughtful, balanced, and well-informed. And whereas Len has served as both mentor and partner to his fellow commissioners, always taking time to share insights, explain complex zoning details, and ensure that all voices were heard. And whereas Len's volunteerism with local organizations, including literacy and education initiatives, demonstrates his enduring desire to help others learn, grow, and thrive, quietly observing, assisting, and improving the world around him. And whereas his tireless efforts and steadfast belief in this community have made him a Cleveland Heights treasure, an example of selfless public service, and a role model for future generations of civic leaders. Now, therefore, I got there. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, that this council hereby expresses its deepest gratitude and sincere appreciation to Len Horowitz for his more than 50 years of exemplary service, dedication, and love for the City of Cleveland Heights. Section 1 reads, the council extends its best wishes to Lynn for happiness, health, wealth too. I would have thrown that in.
Take it.
And fulfillment in this next chapter of life, knowing that his legacy of thoughtful leadership and community spirit will continue to guide the city for years to come. And Section 2, a copy of this resolution shall be presented to Lynn Horowitz as a token of the city's appreciation and admiration for his remarkable contributions to Cleveland Heights. It is found and determined that all formal actions and deliberations of council and its committees relating to the passage of this legislation that resulted in formal action were meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements of Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. I needed to read that, and there are a couple of formal processes which are in our agenda, but I'm not going to read those because they just aren't as personal. But I do need to ask for a motion to pass this particular piece of legislation.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Congratulations. Councilor-elect Cohen is going to speak first, really quickly.
It was said, but it bears repeating, that Len Horowitz has served this city in some official capacity for 54 years. 26 of those on the Planning Commission, and for the last 10 or so, literally as my right hand. And Len, you are, it said it at the end of the proclamation, you are a complete and utter role model for all of us here in Cleveland Heights of what it means to serve. And we are just so grateful on behalf of the entire Planning Commission. We'll thank you again on December 10th, but we want to thank you in front of the council. Yes, hopefully or not hopefully, depending on how you're feeling, your last meeting. And we are so grateful for everything that you have, all the time and the energy and the knowledge that you've shared with us over the years. So thank you, Len, and congratulations.
There we go.
It was a team effort, right?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Can you hold on? Well, I've given very few speeches of any length, but this is one of my very last opportunities, and this may take more than 3 minutes. So first, thank you for honoring me tonight. I mean, it's great. I've got councilmen from A to Z in front of me. At one time or another, I've met and talked city business with most of our council members. And of course, I spent years on Planning Commission with Anthony and Craig and our soon-to-be new council person, Jessica Cohen. It's been 54 years since I moved to Cleveland Heights, opened my natural food store, the Food Project, on Coventry, where the parking deck is now, so it isn't there, and began my more or less lifelong avocation of trying to leave Cleveland Heights a little bit better off than I found it. So please indulge me while I reminisce. This may, as I said, take more than 3 minutes. When I started on council, we were 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And I don't remember a single time when party affiliation played a part in our deliberations on what was best for Cleveland Heights. I served with Alan Rappaport, Jack Boyle, Dick Wigan, Carol Edwards, Phil Hart, Barbara Boyd, Bob Arnold, Joanne O'Brien, and Ken Montlack over a period of 12 years, and I hope I didn't leave anyone out. Each one of them had something to contribute that reflected their personal and professional experience, their neighborhood's concerns, and their understanding of Cleveland Heights challenges. A couple of memories, not necessarily uplifting. At my first or second council meeting in 1982, we were told that the city of Cleveland was raising their water rate and lowering our discount.
Word of explanation, as a master meter city at the time, we bought water from Cleveland, then distributed it, maintained the pipes, the meters, the hydrants. We did a great job. Our residents loved it, and we were much more responsive than Cleveland Water. But going from a 40% discount to a 25% discount took a toll. And the city eventually had to turn the system over to Cleveland, as people on council now know. Also in the 1980s, Cleveland Heights received about $2 million a year in community development block grant funding, which we used to revitalize our commercial areas and support housing and local institutions in various ways. If our allocation had kept up with inflation, we'd be getting $6 million a year now. Instead, we get about $1.5 million, about a quarter effectively of what we used to get. Wow, 2 downers in a row. And yet, despite the various forces that sometimes seem to be arrayed against us, we get back up and we find new ways to thrive. You know, in the process of dealing with current issues, we sometimes forget just how much we as a community have accomplished over the years. Over the last 40 or so years, we replaced our old fire stations. It was controversial at the time. Built a new city hall, expanded the community center, rebuilt the Evans Amphitheater and Alma Theater in Kane Park, added the Barbara Boyd Park, the baseball fields and picnic shelters at Forest Hills Park, a new soccer field, pickleball courts, and playground equipment at Denison. We built parking decks on Coventry and Cedar Lee, and way, way more than that, but that's just touching the surface. And lots of new housing and other projects got built over the last 4 decades. Kensington Place Apartments at Severance, Cedar Mount Townhomes, which was controversial at the time. The Ascent, also known as Top of the Hill, also controversial at the time. Several townhouse developments along Euclid Heights, the Bluestone condos that replaced the old Jewish Community Center, the courtyards of Severance that replaced an engineering firm's headquarters, and Severance Place condos that repurposed the old Kaiser facility. Currently, the Marquee at Cedar Lee and the Taylor Tudor overhaul are in progress. The Metro Health facility at Severance, the new Hebrew Academy campus on Warrensville, major projects at Park Synagogue and Severance are percolating. There's a lot that's happened, you know, a lot of good stuff. But about that controversial at the time thing, almost every major project that is built in our almost fully built up suburb affects neighbors and businesses nearby. In my experience, council, staff, and planning commission struggle with balancing the way it is with what needs to be done to ensure a solid future for Cleveland Heights. And often projects get reworked and tweaked to make them fit in better. It's easy to build new housing and commercial centers on farmland, but we already have a real community that we value. A walkable community that's a home for the arts, that has both starter homes and mansions, that makes a conscious effort to provide great city services and recreational opportunities to all our residents, and that works to make Cleveland Heights more resilient in the face of climate change. Our world constantly changes. We try to respect the past, understand the present, and prepare for the future together. We've had our share of challenges, but what I see today is that we have a government that acknowledges those challenges and is prepared to work together to address them. I'll conclude by saying that I'm proud of Cleveland Heights' embrace of all are welcome, and that includes DEI. After all, if we can't champion diversity, equity, and inclusion, who can? What's the alternative? Uniformity? Inequity? Exclusion? Not here. Not in Cleveland Heights. I believe that in Cleveland Heights, we are the best form of woke, which is a way of saying we're awake and paying attention. We know what our challenges are. We know who we are and what we stand for. So I'm confident that our community will keep moving forward together. Thank you, Cleveland Heights, for being my home and my heart for the last 50 years.
Thank you. That's a very difficult act to follow, but we have to move, as you well know, we have to move on to the agenda, right? Thank you so much again. since City Administrator Dumas is not here, do you have a report?
No, she's not here, but she sends her love, and she'll be back at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. And we do a departmental report, at least one, so Director Zamp?
Good evening, everybody, council, administration, the public here tonight, and the public watching. It's actually a bit of serendipity because each of the individuals that were honored here tonight have a real close attachment to planning and development. Vice President Russell has been the head of the P&D committee and really has been a forerunner and a proponent for planning and development and making our city a place where we want people to come and do the right type of development. Councilman Maddox was the P&D chair prior to Vice President Russell and helped guide us through those first periods when we had an elected mayor and started to get a lot of these projects going. And of course, Lenny has been just a great member of the commission. And personally, I appreciate all the work he's done. In fact, a quick story, and I know it's late, but I must have been here about 2 weeks or so in the middle of COVID. And I get a call from Lenny, maybe it was a month in, and he says, why don't you come over to my house and let me share with you some of my thoughts. And he didn't stop from that point going forward. So he's always willing to share. And I think that's a unique and unifying characteristic of the three individuals is that they care about this community and they wanted to thrive in the future. So with that as a bit of an introduction, let's talk about some of the amazing planning things that we're currently working on. And let's start with development because obviously that's often what people have top of mind. So we've spoke about this previously in a couple of meetings ago, but the Lancashire Senior Housing Project, the one that National Tourist Residences was going after, they did not receive state tax credits for that project. They believe that it's not a competitive location for affordable housing tax credits. And so therefore that agreement, which was time bound, has expired and the city will be moving on. And part of that moving on is working and meeting with the church to explore options for the future of their site in conjunction with our two parking lots. Nobility Court, which is the TWG project on Noble Road, is still looking for completion for the residential piece in the midpoint of next year. And Starlight CDC, who is a partner in that, is working on the commercial space and coordinating with us to make sure that that's something that fits. The Marquee, which is Flaherty & Collins, they're looking to complete the rebuild by the end of next year. But you can see every day how that's progressing. And Taylor Tudor, again, a project that's in the works, looking to complete by the summer of 2026 for the apartments and the first commercial units, and then there'll be additional commercial spaces that get filled after that. So those are the things that are ongoing. Severance is obviously a very big topic. It's an important topic. It's one that's ongoing. I have a bunch of slides on this, and I think I'll defer most of them to tomorrow's Planning and Development Committee meeting, but I did want to start with this because the mayor asked me to make this very clear that where this project is, it has multiple components. And the first component, the one that the city's currently dealing with, is the zoning, and that's with the council. And so that's are the two ordinances that are before council. Should that go through end of this year, early next year, there's a public financing framework component of that will involve council and the school district. So that includes a TIF framework, not necessarily a specific TIF, and an NCA, which is a new community authority. And then there's all the coordination that the owners and developers have to do in coming up with projects. And the hope and goal is that by the fourth quarter of next year, the first projects, the first phase are coming through. And then the future phases are beyond that. So this is just a reminder that there's a long way to go here, and zoning is just one component of that. There's a lot of information that is out there that we're trying to provide to everyone. Zoning is complicated. It's hard to get through, a 100-page document with legalese. So we've tried to provide all the videos of the various conversations that council and the committees and the commission are having. And there's a lot of really good hard work that the elected and appointed officials are doing. And we also have tried to provide just other resources, whether they are planning documents or economic development documents related to severance itself. And then there's a whole bunch of meetings that have happened and will happen. This, we'll post all this, but you can see that we're here tonight on the bottom on December 3rd, but there is a Planning and Development Committee meeting tomorrow. Then on December the 10th is the Planning Commission meeting where they're going to be talking about that much further. And then Council has a public hearing on the 15th and then potentially a special meeting on the 17th. That equals 11 meetings between the council, the commission, and the committee that will be scheduled, 5 of which were added to the schedule. So I think it just shows, again, this council taking this very seriously. And these are really the 4 bigger picture questions that we're starting to get. I'm going to defer most of this to the Planning and Development Committee meeting tomorrow. So I'm just going to skip through it, but just for the people at home and people in the audience, it's your, who, what, where, what. So what is a form-based code? That's a question people are asking. Why use this approach? There are lots of different zoning approaches out there. So we can talk about that. Where's the vision for Severance and how does that fit into this zoning, and what are the benefits of a form-based code? So I'm going to skip through all this, everyone, but it's a sneak peek for what you might see tomorrow. And it's just a reminder that people should self-educate themselves about the project. There's a lot of meetings coming up. Comments are really important, and the more specific they are, the better. And we haven't shared this yet, but you can feel free to always send comments to planning@clevelandheights.gov. You can always come to a meeting and share your comments that way or go through the clerk, but sending them directly to the planning department also is very important. So park planning. Here is something that's really important. I know it's important to a lot of you, especially as you're looking at the budgetary process. And we've been going through this Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan. And most of the work to date has been the data collection. And there's been a lot of data collection, not just about our existing parks and spaces, but also about our recreational administration and needs. That's a big part of parks planning, is how do we actually administer our parks program? And so there's been a lot of digging in by our consultants. There have been surveys and listening sessions that are pretty much closed. And the Technical Advisory Committee is going to be meeting this month, which is on the 17th, to go over initial recommendations and then bring those forward. Just announcing this tonight to a public open house on January the 28th between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. at the community center. And that'll be really important because while the consultant team and the city has been engaging with a lot of key stakeholders, this will be the sort of first opportunity for the public at large to come and really engage on this, which is going to be really important. There'll be another survey related to that. We have a website which has a lot of information, and the idea is to target May for completion so that we can start to go into implementation and then really inform the budgetary process next year for that implementation. Gateway and wayfinding signage plans, another key effort that we've been working on. The Cuyahoga County Planning Commission worked with us on a plan which has just been completed and posted to our site. And it's really an examination of our existing conditions and some suggestions about the types of signs and the locations of signs that the city should explore moving forward. We found that in doing that work, there was a gap, and the gap was between planning and implementation. And we really needed to dig down, particularly with our business districts and the SIDS, to talk about the exact signage, what it should look like, the branding that's involved in that. And so we are engaged with Land Studio to do that work for us. So they're going to review the plan, they're going to have meetings with the SIDS and the merchants associations, look at best practices for branding and other signage, and then assist us in doing the RFQ for the actual fabrication and design of the signage. So again, planning work that's necessary for the implementation work that we hope to do starting next year and will be an ongoing thing. Accessory dwelling units. So I'm going to turn this over to our ADU king, which is Xavier Yazbek from my office.
Thanks, Eric. Good evening, everybody. So just want to give an update on our accessory dwelling unit initiative. So want to remind everybody that there's a decent amount of history here. In July 2024, our ADU study that we worked with the county was released last December. We had our ADU design competition, which was an engagement with the professional community, trying to understand what ADUs could look like in Cleveland Heights. So we've now gotten that big picture. We've engaged the professional community. And in the last 2 months, we've been engaging with our Cleveland Heights community and the general public. We've had our ADU zoning survey, which will inform proposed potential zoning recommendations to permit ADUs. We've gotten a really great response to that survey. We feel like we've had over 500 responses. So it shows there's a lot of interest in this topic. For anyone in the public listening, officially the deadline was yesterday, but since we're here tonight, we've extended it to the end of this week. So this is really the last chance to help us with that. And as Eric mentioned, zoning is complicated. So we've really tried to make an effort to get out to the public and educate them and explain accessory dwelling units and hear from them as well. So we've had 7 community pop-up events in the last 2 months at places like Noble Library, Phoenix Coffee, Grocery Outlet, the community center. Those were pretty well attended. We had about 20% of our surveys were paper surveys that were filled out at those events. And finally, last week we released a brief video explaining what an accessory dwelling unit is, where we went to a carriage house in Cleveland Heights, which was viewed over 2,000 times on Facebook and Instagram. So we have planned some additional videos, and we're also going to summarize and go through those survey responses. There's a lot of data to dig into. So thank you.
Just touching on a couple other planning initiatives showing that we're hard at work in the planning department. So the housing needs assessment, which council approved a couple of meetings ago, is just about to kick off in the next couple of weeks. And that's going to be a real foundational document so we can continue to have informed conversations about housing and residential in our city. Zoning updates, we issued an RFP. We got 6 responses for that, and we're holding interviews this week and next week. We hope to bring on the 15th a recommendation. There's 2 that really stand out to us, and that again will be really important. I think some of you can quote me on this, but I've said how important zoning is to getting things done in the city, ADUs, severance, whatever it is, and this is really going to help modernize our code and take a look at things. And sign regulations, which is in our zoning code, is something that's ongoing. So ZoneCo is on board to do that. They've finished the existing conditions, and there's going to be a survey that will sort of be a visual preference survey to say which type of signs do you like to see, which ones don't you like to see, and then we can change or recommend changes to the zoning that would wrap around that. Economic development, some of this was in the committee of the whole meeting, but there's a lot going on. We've got the small business grant program launched with UBiz, and that is open. There is another informational session on Wednesday at 10:30. I could have that wrong, but there's another one coming up. We can get that out through the clerk, more information. And there's also going to be a sign grant program. We found that that's been one of the biggest gaps in our assistance is helping businesses with their signs. The storefront program is really important one that we have ongoing. And everyone can see the work that resulted with that on Mayfield Road. And then there's a whole bunch of new businesses that have come in either recently or will be coming in. You can see here on the screen. Transportation planning, really important work that we're doing. And you can just see here a list of all the things that we're working on, in particular, the Safe Streets for All, which is a federal program, and the Taylor TLCI, which is a state and local program with NOACA. So we're looking at that, which hopefully can result in projects in 2026. Infill housing, of course, something that's really important to our community. So the awards that were allotted to be rehabbed, 4 are going to Start Right, 2 are going to Future Heights, and then potentially 3 are going to be going to the county land bank. That will require county council approval. And then there were recently awarded vacant lots to YRM and Rebuild Cleveland, and they both expect to start working on those and drawing down on that in 2026. There are some community meetings related, at least to the Future Heights one coming up. We hope to have an RFQ for builders and developers and interested parties coming out soon, which will lead to RFPs. And then the community, the Cleveland Heights Community Improvement Corporation should be getting an injection tonight with some legislation that really ties that relationship between the city, the council, and the CIC to be the agent or to potentially be an agent of the city in in a lot of the real estate transactions. So we think that's really important. Neighborhood planning, it's really central to what we're doing besides this bigger citywide stuff. So we've got a lot going on Noble Road, streetscape designs. The market study actually was really completed today, and we're going to post that. The plan is being drafted. It was waiting for the market study to be completed. Once we have all that, we want to re-engage with the community and really start to work with NABA and the Merchants Association. Similarly with Taylor Road, there's a lot going on and want to work with that Merchants Association. And the North Coventry, we shouldn't forget about. We're drafting a plan that is based upon the work that we did there late last year and this year. These numbers sort of speak for themselves, but our building department has been really busy, actually issuing over 3,000 permits this year, and you can see the breakdown. And our revenues are exceeding our estimates, which is a really good sign. It's not the only reason that we have building departments, but it's still a good thing. Inspectional services, you can see there's been almost 11,000 inspections this year, and here's the breakdown. This has resulted in about 101 court cases being filed. But that's something that I think we want to talk about next year with the new administration and the new council is, how we can do things better. And the Center for Community Progress has a lot of information you can see here on the right about sort of new ways to attack code enforcement. So we want to look at that. We want to look at our regulations, reevaluate how things go from approvals to permits to violations to the courts, create a housing task force, and really walk the neighborhoods sort of collaboratively and see these issues, firsthand. Grants, there's a lot that we've submitted and we're waiting on. The Advanced Energy Fund, which is on your agenda tonight. A lot of transportation and archiving things. We did not get 2 grant programs there, and then there are 2 coming up that we're looking at. So we'll keep you apprised of those. And then, of course, our great boards and commissions do a lot of great work. Here's a picture of, I think, the most recent Planning Commission meeting. So they'll be meeting again on the 10th. The Board of Zoning Appeals didn't have any cases in November, but we'll have a December agenda. ABR, starting this month, their meetings are going to be virtual and starting at 4 p.m. The Landmark Commission celebrated their 50th anniversary this year, and they're working on our updated brochure. That's something that people really desire. And then there's going to be some proposed changes to the ordinance that should be coming in 2026. And the CAC should be presenting to council, the chair, in December regarding the recommendations. They just voted on those the other night. So in short, in the month of December, here's our upcoming meetings: 2 ABR meetings, Planning Commission, the CIC, and the Board of Zoning Appeal. Of course, the severance meetings and various committee meetings. And I thank you for a couple of minutes.
Madam President, while Eric is here, and I apologize, I'll make a general statement in terms of my council comments later about this, but I just wanted to say thank you because it's not often that you're in the room with Carol O'Donnell, and I see Karen's over there as well, and then Lenny's here, and so I just want to say thank you. I appreciate your statements earlier, but I want you to know that the things that I've accomplished on this council and the things that I've been able to do in this community have been in a large part because of this planning department and the people that I've had the honor of working with and learning from. And while you're all here, I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you because for most of you, this community doesn't see your faces and they don't know the work that you do. But you have taught me not just to respect and honor our past, but also think about incorporating that as we think about our future. And like I said, it's very unusual to have all of you in this room right now. But I feel full, and I would be wrong if I didn't say something while you were all here, just to tell you how much I appreciate you and how much I've learned from each of you and how to respect the not only engagement process, but how you think about this city's future and each of these neighborhoods. And I want to say publicly to all the residents here that even if they don't meet you in person, that they've got to know that everyone in that department, from you guys to Brian to Christy to so many others, have a heart and a passion for this community, and you do care about our feedback. You do care about the impact of the changes and the things that are happening. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that while you're all here in this room. And Kara, I didn't want to leave you out because you put so much pressure on me in the Planning Commission to learn so much. And so I just wanted to say thank you while you were here for that, and thank you for the work that you're doing. And I know regardless of who's in these seats, this city's in good hands because you guys care about the work that you're doing and you invest so much in it. And this shows at your presentation tonight. So thank you.
Thank you from all of us for your staff and their efforts. I mean, reflected in all those slides, Director Samt. Appreciate your report. You'll be back in 2026, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
No, you'll be back the next council meeting.
Report of the Clerk of Council.
Just to report that I've received a notice to legislative authority for a new D2 permit for 1854 Coventry Courtyard LLC located at 1854 Coventry Road. This matter will be referred to the Mayor and Chief of Police.
All right, thank you, Addie. We are heading into public comment. We have more than 15. Addie will be entering any property owner complaints directly into Access Cleveland Heights tonight to ensure the appropriate department is assigned to the complaint.
Madam
And
President,
yes.
we
Mayor.
did have one more presentation
Oh, I'm
under.
sorry, nobody informed me, so now I guess you
Well,
are.
yeah, it's just, I mean, it's on the agenda. It's director reports. Pardon?
All right, Director
Oh,
Prosser,
there's one more.
please.
Sorry, Ryan Presser.
Sorry. Little communication breakdown, sorry.
I apologize for sneaking into the meeting like this. The mayor had asked that there we go. The mayor asked that I give an update on the city surveillance cameras. We've got 100 of 225 cameras installed at this point. We continue to work through challenges with First Energy as far as getting permission to attach to the poles, get power down from the poles to get these cameras up. Right now we have the Noble Monticello Business District approved for attachment. So we've got fiber is being ordered by the vendor now. And he's setting up his aerial guys to get this installed. And the vendor has said that we can expect to have those installed by the end of this year. With the weather, I take that with a grain of salt, but I'll take his word for it and just be hopeful that we'll get that done. I anticipate once we get Noble Monticello deployed and get those cameras up and lit, the vendor that we're working with, the engineer that we're working with, the people at First Energy, I think will have some sort of expediency to the process we've seen thus far. But I'd probably be looking to the administration or to, council committee to really come together and come to try to find a better way to communicate with First Energy and get some things done. We have a lot of struggles with our approvals for getting these cameras attached. We have a lot of struggles with streetlight outages. Recent communication from the police department was they had 98 pages of streetlight outages they had reported to First Energy. Since they started recording those records from November of 24, there was 887 outages reported, and many of those areas are still dark. So I think it's something that we should really figure out a way to find out who to talk to at First Energy and, express to them how important these things are to us, the cameras, the lights, and, make sure we can get things done with them.
Question for you, Director Prosser. When you talk about 100 out of 225 cameras installed,
Yeah.
are you also, does that include the cameras that you may have had in the system that needed to be upgraded as well and better serve the community?
Yeah, so of that number, a lot of those are replacements of, aged out, failed components. A lot of those in and around City Hall, outside in the parking lot, Dennison Park, Kane Park, Cumberland Park and Pool. So it includes replacements as well as new additions.
Thank you very much.
Madam President,
Councilor Maddox.
just a quick question regarding the poles and the power there.
Yeah.
In a power outage, I'm assuming that means that those cameras would not work. Is there a way for us to do something separate? Or I'm just curious if that was part of the issue there.
I think the power supply to the cameras would be a separate line, and the streetlight outages, I think, are more specific to the fixtures rather than the power supply that would be shared between the camera and the light. I think those two would be affected differently. Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you so much. I'm sorry I was rude. I did not mean to be rude to you, Director
I
Prosser.
broke into your party here, sorry.
It's not my party, but
No, you didn't. That beard deserved to be seen, sir.
Anyway, we were talking about public comment, and we have more than 15 speakers, so each of you will have 2 minutes this evening. When you come up, you will have 2 minutes to speak, and at the end of your time, you'll hear that beep, beep, beep. And I really ask you, when you step up the podium, please remember to state your name and your street or neighborhood. It's really important that you get credit for the information that you're sharing with us this evening. So with that, Addie, first speaker.
Douglas Whipple.
Good evening. I'm Douglas Whipple, 1518 South Taylor Road. On November 18, I received from the city responses to my public records request regarding SAG, also known as the Severance Action Group. SAG presented to the city a severance revitalization analysis more than 3 years ago. In January 2023, the city met with SAG. SAG presented to the city an impressive development plan that had been prepared by Paul Volpe, who is a household name in Cleveland Heights. More than a year later, in March 2024, the City Director of Planning and Development issued a request for expression of interest about the revitalization and redevelopment of Severance. The City Director attached Paul Volpe's concept plan for informational purposes. On July 9, 2024, Ryan Porter of MPACT and SAG representatives met. That meeting and followed communications resolved some, but not all of the concerns. SAG was encouraging, but pointedly asked for answers to several open questions before SAG could endorse the impact and NAMDAR proposal. In November 2024, SAG gave public attention to serious unaddressed issues. Among these are A, impact does not provide a large central park. B, impact favors surface rather than vertical parking. And C, impact's development timeline ranges for as much as 20 years. Nearly a year later, Impact submitted the Severance Overlay Zone proposal to City Council. That proposal was about 5 weeks ago. Several smart citizens have observed that if Impact and NADAR want to deal with the city fairly, much of our power is vested in our zoning authority. If you approve the SOZ reform now rather than later, you are forfeiting our negotiating leverage.
Thank you, Paul. Doug, thank you, Doug.
L. Noack.
Seems to be a SAG moment. I'm Larry Nowak, and I live on Edge Hill Road. And I want to speak just very briefly to 3 points. First, the proposal that is in front of us for zoning. SAG is not opposed to the idea of form-based zoning at all. We believe it's fine. We don't think it's necessary, but we're okay with it. Secondly, we think that the proposal that has been put in front of us is too restrictive. And in particular, as we went through it, as I went through it too, we discovered that the road plan that you've seen in the design put up by Ryan is intended to be immovable. I am glad to say, and I'm going to point out tonight, is Eric still here? Oh, he's gone. That's too bad. I would like everybody here to know that we're getting response from Ryan and from the planning department. Ryan and Eric are working on a modification to the zoning that will allow the movement of streets and underground facilities to support civic uses, including parks, okay? If that actually happens, that will relieve one of my great concerns. Lastly, I would ask you, don't approve this until you understand it. If everybody at that sitting up there understands this and is comfortable with what is in it, and you vote to approve it, that's just fine. I would be heartbroken if you did otherwise. Okay? The city deserves our best effort and the right answer. Somebody said earlier, it may have been David, but I think maybe it was Len also. We've got a lot of future ahead of us, And we've got time. We've been working on this for 20 plus years. We can wait another year or two to get it right if we think it's not right now. Okay? That's all.
Thank you, Larry.
Jennifer Wintner.
Jennifer Wintner, Scarborough Road. As a good government geek, a developer, and a Cleveland Heights resident committed to seeing the best possible redevelopment of Severance, I'm very concerned the council will approve this proposed zoning code chapter. My forecast is that approval at best will further delay redevelopment, but at worst, it will lead to partial redevelopment that the community is not happy with and that deters additional build out of the site. In the now 2 minutes that I'm allotted, I can only identify a few of my concerns. I am hopeful the council recognizes the need for extensive discussion of these and many other issues that proposed zoning raises. I'm grateful that Councilwoman Russell has scheduled another planning committee meeting for tomorrow, and I hope the conversation continues there. Let's start with the fact that the new chapter pretty much eliminates the review and approval function of the city. The existing code stipulates that development on the Severance site is permitted only after the Board of Control, the Planning Commission, and City Council have approved a detailed development plan. That plan must include the following elements. It must be prepared by qualified professionals and drawn to scale. It must show existing conditions. It must show the number, height, and location of all proposed buildings and public spaces. It must include a system for on-site traffic circulation and data showing expected traffic volumes. It must include plans for exterior lighting, signage, and landscaping. It must include architectural drawings, including floor plans, elevations, and specifications of the proposed development. And it must provide a detailed statement of the phasing and staging of all the plan elements. In contrast, the proposed zoning does not call for creation of a comprehensive plan. Rather, review is limited to individual project site plans, a drawing that shows where the building will be located on a lot. That's it, and not architectural plans of the building. This review is to be done by an undefined technical advisory committee, the Architectural Review Board, and the Planning Commission, which has the ultimate authority to approve or deny an application. Although the proposed code includes some elements called for in the existing code, those elements are watered down and inapplicable in the context of the rest of the draft code. The end result will be that developers will have the right to build what they want with minimal city oversight. The only real development limitations will be the street and block layout included in the proposed code.
Thank you, Jen. I'm sorry.
Megan Bauhoff.
Thank you. Meg Bahoff. I live on Crest Road, which is right behind Severance. I just moved to the state in January, and I've lived in multiple countries and states, and this is the first place I felt comfortable buying a home. The trees were a big part of that, and that whole area of humongous, beautiful trees that I think is so characteristic of Cleveland Heights is part of this zoning. And so my heart is calling to this area. I also remembered I wanted to start by saying thank you for doing this and thank you for hearing us. And I think I just have more of a feeling rather than a ton of research behind me that I've heard from people I respect that we could spend more time making this decision. And I urge you to take the time because we're not in a hurry. And I live behind Severance. I feel like I would be somebody who might be in a hurry to make something happen with Severance, but I want it to be done right, just like everyone else. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Meg.
That's all I have for legislative items. Moving on to non-legislative, Dr. Kate Gillooly.
Good evening. My name is Kate Gillooly, and I am a almost lifelong resident of Cleveland Heights. I live on Cleveland Heights Boulevard, and I serve as the pastor of Heights Christian Church in Shaker. I love Cleveland Heights, particularly because of its diversity, progressive stance, and its warm welcome. I'm here tonight at the invitation of Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights. to encourage council to pass the proposal for legal counsel for immigrants in deportation proceedings. This is urgent. People are suffering and in need of assistance. My congregation is part of IGA, an interfaith group against hate, and our work recently has been with immigrant communities in Greater Cleveland, including offering support to people whose family members have been scooped up by ICE. I listen to people every day who are alarmed by our current events and feel powerless to help. And what I have learned is that it is not enough to feel bad about what is happening. We must take action to help those in need. We must invest ourselves in their well-being. Over and over, Scripture tells us to care for the other. In Exodus, we read, "You shall not oppress a sojourner. You know the heart of a sojourner, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt." Whether you consider these words sacred or not, they speak to a universal experience and to the compassion that is supposed to evoke in us. Certainly in some way, all of us are sojourners, descended from immigrants, from enslaved peoples, or from native peoples of this land. We must find it in our collective heart and will to do what we can to relieve the suffering of these fellow community members, to do what is right. Regardless of your religious belief or none at all, fairness and due process are civic values. No one should face deportation alone. We all want Cleveland Heights to continue to be a beacon of justice and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rochelle Wolf.
I'm Rochelle. I live near Silsbee, Taylor, and Cedar. I'm with Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights, supporting legal defense for immigrants. I live on a street with neighbors from at least 4 different continents. They're good, honest people, and I worry about them. I worry about what could happen if an ICE van showed up on our block, whether they would have anyone to stand with them. Last week, I read a news story about a woman who lived legally in the United States for 30 years, did everything right, and still found herself suddenly detained. I couldn't stop thinking, that could be my neighbor. People in our community should feel safe. They should not be easy targets for detention simply because they were born somewhere else. The system is complicated, and without legal help, it's incredibly difficult to navigate. In fact, people facing immigration proceedings are 10 times more likely to be released if they have legal counsel. 10 times. That tells us that the issue isn't about innocence or wrongdoing. It's about whether someone gets a fair chance. Providing legal representation doesn't change anyone's immigrant status. It simply ensures that the process is fair and that no one is left to face life-altering consequences alone. If we adopt this program, it sends a message about who we are as a community. It says that we stand for fairness, due process, and the dignity of our neighbors. And it says that people doing everything right shouldn't have to live in fear of losing their families or their homes without the opportunity to be heard. I believe that this proposal strengthens us as a community, and I'm proud to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Micah Shapiro.
Hello, my name is Rabbi Micah Shapiro. I'm the founding rabbi of Naria Cleveland here in Cleveland Heights, and I live in the Coventry area. And I'm here with Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights to support legal counsel for immigrants in deportation proceedings as quickly as possible. In our Jewish mystical tradition, we learned that song has a higher spiritual plane than words and can express prayer in a way that words may not. I offer this melody, this nigun, this traditional Jewish wordless melody as a prayer for all those who are vulnerable in Cleveland Heights and in this country from ICE, that we may serve as an example for how to protect the most vulnerable among us.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bob Close.
I too am here by the invitation of Cleveland Heights for Immigrants' Rights because I believe they have a proposal before you for your consideration. I am Bob Close, 33-year resident on Kingston Road. I live within sniffing distance of On the Rise Artisan Breads. I am a recently retired pastor administrator for the community of St. Peter in Midtown. I began volunteering with USCRI, the U.S. Committee on Refugees and Immigrants, on March 3rd, 2016. On that day, I helped an Iraqi family move furniture into their new home. The father of that family assisted the U.S. military in the defeat of Saddam Hussein's regime. Brahim and Adra Khalil, Fatima, Hamoudi, and Adam still call me Amu Bob. That means Uncle Bob. Once introduced to this ministry, the membership at the community of St. Peter couldn't do enough. They made a pastor proud. I raise my voice this evening on behalf of those who have sought refuge within our borders, running from drug cartels, hostile regimes, death threats, and abject poverty. We would do the same for our own families. The atmosphere in this nation of immigrants shifted perceptibly a year ago, not because we ran out of vacancies, but because new leadership does not share our willingness or our eagerness to be good neighbors. On at least 3 occasions this year, I attended hearings at the Federal Immigration Court near West 6th in Ontario. It was standing room only. That kind of support is helpful, but the critical difference in those instances was the legal counsel prepared to speak on behalf of all 3 defendants. Cleveland Heights should be clamoring to provide the same kind of defense for anyone who lives here or works here. Cleveland Heights prides itself on being ahead of the curve, innovating and solving problems in a collaborative manner. I urge this body to see the proposal before you as an invitation, an opportunity, indeed a mandate on how we can accompany our neighbors in their time of greatest need. Thank you,
Pastor Close.
Miriam Geronimus.
Hello, I'm Miriam Geronimus. I live in the Noble neighborhood. I am the rabbi of Cleveland Jewish Collective, and I am also here tonight with Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights. I come as a rabbi and as a concerned constituent to urge council to pass our proposal for legal counsel for immigrants facing deportation as quickly as possible. In the book of Leviticus, the Torah teaches, when strangers reside with you in your land, you shall not oppress them. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love them as yourself. This commandment to love the stranger as yourself is repeated over and over throughout the Torah. In the book of Exodus, we are taught there shall be one law for the citizen and the stranger alike. This means that there must be equal and just treatment under the law, including in court proceedings. I value separation of church and state, but these are universal values held by many traditions, worthy of upholding for the sake of humanity, due process, and democracy. And yet currently, the opposite is the case in this country and this city. Immigrants are living in fear, afraid to leave their homes in case they might be kidnapped by ICE without a warrant and deported. When immigrants find themselves in immigration court, the stakes are life-altering, and yet there is no right to a government-funded attorney. As we heard in more detail previously, people in immigration court without a lawyer are far more likely to be deported, but lawyers dramatically increase the chance of release from detention. Thus, funding legal counsel for immigrants is a necessary step towards ensuring due process. It is imperative that this step be taken as quickly as possible, for people's lives are on the line. As the Jewish sage Hillel taught, if not now, when?
Thank you, our Rabbi.
Reverend Ryan Wallace. Sheila? Quentin Yoder.
Hello, Council. My name is Quentin Yoder, and I've spoken to you guys a number of times. Tonight is a very special night for me because I get to talk from my perspective as a person of faith. The reason that I'm involved with Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights is because in my mind, Jesus' ministry consistently emphasizes the importance of protecting those on the margins of society. It is not a coincidence that Jesus' preaching resonated primarily with the disabled, the poor, the ritually unclean, and the foreigners. The Bible throughout the Gospels and the Old Testament uplifts the voices of these people and challenges the social conventions that would seek to strip them of their humanity. Under the current administration, immigrants are quickly being shoved to the margins of society, so I find no better way to follow in the Bible's footsteps than highlighting the experiences of immigrants who are now on the margins. For example, is City Council aware that immigrants are so afraid of being abducted on their way to the grocery store or work that they are now having food delivered to them and or abstaining from going to work? Is City Council aware of the fact that international students are so afraid to visit their family outside of the country that they're just refusing to go? Many students have said, I won't visit my family until Trump leaves office. Is City Council aware that immigrants in detention centers, 70% of which do not have criminal records? For record, that would be like 4 people in this room would have a criminal record. Are we aware of the fact that they are fearful for their lives due to neglect and abuse, such as being denied water, toiletries, and medications for multiple days on end? Is City Council aware of the fact that ICE is patrolling our parking lots? I've seen ICE in Dave's parking lots, and I've seen ICE reported a number of times in our neighborhood. They are actively looking for your community members, and I think that is indefensible. This is not a matter of complex political, social, or economic matters, but a question of whether or not those on the margins deserve dignity, rights, and safety. For me and my Jesus, the answer is a resounding yes, and I hope City Council will stand with us and defend immigrants by allowing our proposal to pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Quentin.
Edgar Mitchell.
Good evening, City Council. I'm here again. I didn't come this time to argue about what's going on with the tree because it's cold outside. I might even put lights on it. But anyway, I'm just saying, I know we'll get to that, when the weather gets a little better. And I just want to thank everybody in City Council here for what they do. And I want to thank the ones that's been honored tonight because, words don't mean nothing if they're not carried into practice. And you can sit and you can be a mayor, you can be whatever, but if you don't go out and make something happen with the words and the beliefs that you have, then nothing's going to happen. So I thank City Council and the mayor and the mayor-elect and everybody for, you got a hell of a job. You got to do it for the people. I hope that we can do something about what's going on with, people that are being deported and hurt that are innocent people, because that's a big thing. What I'm saying, the world is kind of messed up. So what we have to do, I think about a thing that says, give me 10 men that are strong-hearted men, and I'll give you 10,000 more. So you guys do what you got to do. I'm not going away. Thankfully, I'm still alive and kicking. And I hope I know you sooner or later will get things straightened out. I've been heard by you guys, and some of you had came forward to help me, and I appreciate that. I won't say anything else. I don't want to run out of time, but thank God for whatever's happening here now, and hopefully we can push it forward and make a little more things happen, okay? I'll see you next council meeting, and hopefully things will be good. Everybody have a good holiday, and hope you had a good holiday for Thanksgiving. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell.
Having a hard time reading this next first name, but I believe it's Hamley O'Donnell is the last name.
My name is Kara Hamley O'Donnell. I live on Euclid Heights Boulevard in the Coventry neighborhood. I am a Heights Arts board member and a member of the Heights Arts Public Art Project Team, a group which includes professional planners like myself, architects, artists, and members of the Heights Arts Exhibition Community Team. My fellow project team member Deirdre McPherson is with me here tonight. And representing Heights Arts, I can say that we are grateful and excited that Council is considering funding for our organization so that we can work with the Noble and Taylor neighborhoods, the property owners, the merchants, and neighborhood advocates to create plans for public art in each district. Our initial ARPA funding vision was to undertake that public art work in those two neighborhoods with members of our public art project team walking those districts, photographing, mapping, and discussing potential public art locations. I have one piece of paper which I'll hand to someone at the end and pass down, but I know that our executive director, Rachel, did also email that document to council this afternoon. And again, we were so disappointed that compressed timeline made us have to pivot and undertake because we knew we did not have the time to do the important engagement needed to ensure that the art represented the merchants and the residents' vision. Neighborhood-specific plans will help to create a roadmap for where art might be located and the type of art desired by neighborhood stakeholders. Do Noble and Taylor stakeholders and community members want murals, sidewalk or crosswalk art, sculpture? Do they want functional art like seating, performance stages, bike racks? Do they want wayfinding? Do they want illumination? Do they want play space? Do they want plaza gatherings places? Do they want larger pieces of art or small breadcrumbs that are scattered throughout the neighborhood? There are endless possibilities with the Heights Arts, and I believe this council needs the community to tell what they want. Plans help create a shared vision, prioritize and recommend first implementation steps, and understand the costs, and also help a lot with grant funding. So we thank you for your consideration of funding Heights Arts so that we can do the plans for those two neighborhoods.
Thank you, Carrie.
Deirdre McPherson.
Good evening, Mayor Kuda and members of City Council. My name is Deirdre McPherson of Hampshire Road, Coventry Village neighborhood. I also serve as Chief Community Officer at Assembly for the Arts, where our region's Arts Council focused on advocacy, cultural policy, racial equity, and research that strengthens our region's arts ecosystem. In my role, I support artists, arts nonprofits, and creative businesses so that Greater Cleveland can be a great region of the arts and a great region of equity. I also serve on the public art planning team for Heights Arts, which includes, as was previously mentioned, city planners, artists, arts leaders, and our special improvement district partners, all collaborating to envision public art that is meaningful, community informed, and sustainable. I speak tonight not only as in my professional capacity, but also as a current resident of Coventry Village and someone with deep roots in Cleveland Heights. I grew up on the Northeast Side, attending Oxford Elementary. I used to go to Noble Fish Market, Black's Hair Salon, McDonald's, Ruckuson's, Baskin Robbins. Those are all parts of my childhood that I remember fondly. And as both a public art planning team member and someone personally connected to the Noble Corridor, I am eager to see this area from Grayton Road near Nela Park to Monticello and Noble receive thoughtful public art investment that elevates its diverse assets and contributes to a community where residents can flourish, businesses can thrive, and visitors are encouraged to explore. But meaningful public art doesn't happen overnight. Public art planning takes time to listen, collaborate, build alignment. Its long-term impact depends not only on involvement from many stakeholders, but also meaningful investment. Heights Arts is a strong example of what long-term commitment looks like. They've been embedded in our community for 25 years, completing their first public art projects, the Coventry Peace Arch, and other projects since 2001. And I'm confident that they could, in partnership with all these other stakeholders, can really make a difference in the Noble District in due time. Thank you.
Deirdre, one question for you. Are you looking at the whole Noble Corridor or just from Grayton up to Monticello?
I think it goes beyond Monticello. I want to let's include the library in there, going all the way up to Mayfield Road. But
thank you.
There's certainly like 2 or 3 nodes that really need to be activated. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Valeria Stutz.
Wait a second, Vice President Russell.
Thank you for taking me down memory lane. A lot of people don't remember a lot of those things around Noble Road, but thank you for that short skip through memory lane.
Hi, good evening. My name is Valeria Stutz, and I'm a resident of Cleveland Heights and part of the organization Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights. I'm also here as a person of faith and a member of Forest Hill Church on Monticello Avenue. Tonight, I am adding my voice to the chorus of community members urging City Council to pass the proposal written by Cleveland Heights for Immigrant Rights for a pilot project that would provide legal counsel to Cleveland Heights residents in deportation proceedings. There are many reasons that lead me to supporting this proposal, one of them being my walk as a person of faith. My faith practice as a Christian urges me to advocate for the civil rights of all people and to especially work alongside those whose rights are often devalued by our society, such as those without documentation. During his life, Jesus was unequivocally clear that following him meant loving our neighbors, ourselves, and God. What does it mean to practice this love? Jesus preached and demonstrated through his actions that the implications of this love were to meet everyone's material needs and to work alongside those at the margins of power to create a more just and nonviolent society. My faith does not permit me to look away when my neighbors are detained without access to a lawyer to represent them. Jesus himself was an asylum seeker, as some of our neighbors are. He and his parents had to flee to Egypt during his infancy to escape violent persecution. So to turn away from our neighbors who need affordable legal representation is to turn away from God. Every person has a constitutional right to legal representation, regardless of their income or documentation. Our proposed pilot program would provide legal representation to a group of 25 families per year who otherwise would not have access to lawyers due to financial barriers. This kind of pilot program is legal and effective and exists in localities in Ohio like Columbus. City Council, I imagine that your upbringing and value system pushed each one of you to advocate for the public and for the quality of life of all your residents.
Thank you, Gallega. Time is up. Sorry.
Toby?
Hello, City Council. My name is Tovi. I live on Washington Boulevard, and I'm here to speak about point-of-sale inspections and rental inspections. Now, if to go straight up to it, point-of-sale inspections and rental inspections are strictly illegal. They are just unconstitutional. Now, according to the United States Constitution and the Fourth Amendment, the government can only enter into its citizens' home after a judge have issued a warrant, and a judge cannot just issue a warrant because the government wants. There needs to be a probable cause, meaning there needs to be some kind of evidence that a crime has been committed. Now, municipalities around Ohio have been ignoring it for quite a while now, and some of them have been sued for it. As a matter of fact, there is not a municipality in Ohio that have been sued against their point of sale and rental inspections and have won. All of them have lost. As well, there is another Supreme Court case right now pending with the Supreme Court. They accepted it. Now, my question is, how much time will it take until we in Cleveland Heights will get the point? Because other municipalities has got the point, like Berea, like Maple, like Euclid. They just couldn't hide it anymore. It was too illegal. They want point of sale and rental inspections, but they cannot do it from the interior anymore. Now, I believe that there is kind of a confusion about it because like any government thing, there is like advantages and disadvantages to it, to any policy. And the debate about it is very healthy, but as long as it's legal. If it's unconstitutional, we can debate on it. As much as we care about it, no one cares. It's just illegal. We need to stop it.
Thank you, Toby.
That's all, Madam President.
All right. Then we'll go on to first readings. Consideration of adoption requested under legislation. Addie?
I have resolution number 232-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Energility LLC to provide energy management services for the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? I would remind everybody, we've talked about these in committee of the whole to some extent, so this is council's opportunity to discuss or to move on. And those in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have ordinance number 242-2025 on first reading, an ordinance to amend certain subparagraphs of ordinance number 011-2025 relating to appropriations and other expenditures of the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have ordinance number 243-2025 on first reading, an ordinance designating the Cleveland Heights Community Improvement Corporation as the agent of the city for industrial, commercial, distribution, and research development in the city, approving a related agency agreement with the CHCIC, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 244-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with American Builders and Applicators LLC, a certified lead abatement contractor, for the use of Lead Safe Ohio grant funds in connection with the abatement of lead-based paint hazards at permanent parcel number 687-21-028, providing compensation therefore and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 245-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing a change order to the agreement with Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Company, Inc. as general contractor for the CH-9, CH-32, CH-57, and CH-58 SSO control projects, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 246-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing a change order to the agreement with Fabrizi Trucking and Paving Co., Inc. as general contractor for the Yellowstone Sewer Separation and Water Main Replacement Project, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 247-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to the 2025 direct bill contract for sanitary and storm sewer maintenance services, extending the term to not to exceed amounts of the agreement to include fiscal year 2026 and ensuring the continuity of services that help to maintain the city's sanitary and storm sewers, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 248-2025 on first reading, a resolution authorizing and ratifying an amendment to the consulting contract between the City of Cleveland Heights and Aislinn Consulting LLC for municipal financial services, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 249-2025, on first reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a stormwater management program service agreement with Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Moving on to first readings only now.
Yep.
I have resolution number 251-2025 on first reading, a resolution requesting the county fiscal officer to advance taxes from the proceeds of the 2025 tax year collection pursuant to section 321.34 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda. I have ordinance number 252-2025 on first reading, an ordinance authorizing the renewal of an agreement with the Cuyahoga County General Health District for the provision of public health services to the city and its residents, providing compensation therefore, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda. I have resolution number 253-2025 on first reading, a resolution adopting the City of Cleveland Heights cybersecurity program in accordance with Ohio Revised Code section 9.64C and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda. I have ordinance number 254-2025 on first reading, an ordinance amending Chapter 142 Arts Commission of the Codified Ordinances of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and to repeal its prior inconsistent provisions, introduced by all city council members and Mayor Kuda. I have ordinance number 255-2025 on first reading, an ordinance amending section 140.02 members of chapter 140 Cleveland Heights Climate and Environmental Sustainability Committee of the Codified Ordinances of Cleveland Heights to expand the resident membership of the committee from 7 to 9 members to allow for greater resident participation, introduced by Councilmember Cobb. I have ordinance number 256-2025 on first reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Coventry Village Special Improvement District, Inc. for an advance of $40,000 at 0% interest and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Council President Larson. I have resolution number 257-2025 on first reading, a resolution providing for a contribution to the 2025 Coventry Winter Festival and Lantern Parade and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Council President Larson. I have ordinance number 258-2025 on first reading, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a property transfer and indemnification agreement with RP Derbyshire LLC concerning the real property located at 2450 Derbyshire Road and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda. I have ordinance number 259-2025 on first reading, an ordinance amending ordinance 12-2020 passed on February 18th, 2020 to extend the term of that certain tax increment financing exemption under ordinance 12-2020 for an additional 30 years pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code section 5709.51 and authorizing additional instruments, agreements, certificates, and other documents deemed necessary in connection therewith and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
Second readings?
I have ordinance number 226-2025 on second reading, an ordinance amending various sections of Part 11 zoning code of codified ordinances of the City of Cleveland Heights to create a 7th overlay zone, introduced by Mayor Kuda. I have ordinance number 227-2025 on second reading, an ordinance changing the zoning map of the City of Cleveland Heights to map the Severance overlay zone on Severance Town Center and adjacent parcels, generally east of South Taylor Road, south of Mayfield Road, west of Crest Road, and north of Severn Road, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
We're not voting on those tonight.
Not voting on those tonight, that's correct. I have resolution number 228-2025 on second reading, a resolution authorizing the mayor to submit an application to the Ohio Department of Development for a grant under the Advanced Energy Fund grant program to accept funding if awarded and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
We would like to vote on this one tonight, so I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
For discussion, I wanted to let everyone know that the Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee discussed this with Sustainability Coordinator Boateng at our monthly meeting. Members present agreed to move the ordinance out of committee, and we recommend approval of this legislation. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Finally, I have ordinance number 241-2025 on second reading, an ordinance to make appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio for the period of January 1, 2026 through December 31st, 2026, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Kuda.
Also not voting on that this evening. Committee reports. Councilor Posh.
On December 3rd, Wednesday, there's actually two, I think, important meetings. Between 4 and 5, we have a Safety and Health Committee meeting. There's two items on the agenda. One is road and traffic safety. The question to the administration is what dollars and what projects is the city planning to complete in 2026, and how does that impact the budget? The second half of the meeting is regarding the Deer Management Survey that ODNR has hosted for us. We've had over 800 responses to date, which is pretty large. And the overall majority is we have a deer management issue that council needs to sort of figure it out with the community. So we're going to be taking steps, no decisions being made on really looking at what options are. Do we keep the survey up longer? Do we do a public hearing, which I suspect we probably should do, but I think that's up to the community to decide. But that'll be the second half of the meeting. Also that evening, Wednesday, the 3rd of December, we have a Finance Committee meeting, and the topic of that is to go over the budget and to see if there's any additions we need to make, or do we pass what we have and we make additions in January. But that's a decision, not a decision, but a discussion that I believe finance will have. And I welcome all my peers to attend so they can chime in before our meeting later on in December, where we will likely pass the budget, I presume.
Thank you. Councillor Cobb.
Yes, I'm going to be having an Administrative Services Committee meeting this Wednesday following Councilmember Pasha's committee meetings. Most of that meeting is going to be an executive session to discuss the applicants that we have for the 2 vacancies on the Planning Commission starting next year. So though that application portal is closed now, as you heard earlier, we are hopefully going to be amending the legislation creating the Arts Commission and opening that up to council appointments. Currently, the only portal to submit an application is through the mayor's application process. And Addie, if you could somehow get a link on the city council page, that would be greatly appreciated. And so if you're interested in serving in the Arts Commission and you have some experience in the arts, I encourage you to look for that link and get us an application.
Addie's nodding her head.
She's nodding her head?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I had. And then Addie, if there are any that are sitting in the mayor's portal, if you could put those over somehow into the city council or get them to us, that would be greatly appreciated if Mayor Kuda gives you the okay to do that.
Sure thing.
No. That's all I have. Thanks.
Go ahead, Vice President Russell.
So we've heard a lot about planning and development and zoning. So tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. here at City Hall, we will have a meeting, a planning and development committee meeting in 2 folds. From 10:30 to 11:45, we will be discussing the Noble Merchants Association, as well as far as the contract agreement, as well as the Taylor's Merchant Association. At 11:45, we will start on the zoning. We have invited SAG. Am I saying that right? We have invited SAG. We're asking residents, if you want to come to that meeting, please make sure you do. This is the last zoning meeting for the Planning and Development Committee around zoning before the public hearing. So if you have any questions or you want some details, that is a good meeting to be at. We're also going to have one of our attorneys, correct?
Todd.
Okay, and he will also be there just to make sure if there's any legal questions that needs to be answered as well. So that is tomorrow at 10:30. Be on time. It's going to be a long meeting, so be prepared. And I'm letting everyone know, the last meeting, I had to actually cut it off because I have to leave here no later than 1:15 to go back to work. So everyone, please get everything in. We want specific questions, specific dialogue around the zoning, please. Also, I want to announce good news. Today, we had a meeting with the Planning and Development Committee with the county this morning around the Taylor Merchants Association. They were granted $10,000 for their merchants to start their Merchants Association. And a Christmas surprise, they doubled it to $20,000. They were so excited, so overwhelmed with what they were doing with the Noble and the Taylor Merchants Association. Purnell gave the first $10,000 and Michael Hauser matched it. So they came up with $20,000 for the Taylor Merchants Association. So hopefully at my last council meeting on December 15th, I will be able to share a lot of that information and so they could be here to hear all of the information. Myra did a wonderful job in presenting. A couple of the members were there, but all of them could not make it because of work schedules. So they will, if they're not listening tonight, they will find out on the 15th. So that was good news for them today. So thank you.
Madam Vice President, at your committee meeting tomorrow, will you allow residents who are attending to speak? Yes. Okay, just wanted to.
The last committee report, Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability, will meet Tuesday, December 16th at 6 p.m. Agenda to be determined. Old business. Go ahead.
I'm not sure if it's.
We'll reclassify it if we have to.
Okay, I just wanted to update on Kane Park. After we lost an employee, what happened? Who's taking over? I don't know if anyone's ever said. Do anyone know? And you don't have to do it right this moment.
Yeah.
But if you could, I just would like to know what is happening with Kane Park since we lost someone and we were supposed to come up with some type of, some type of intermittent person or group or something to take over.
Are you speaking, which position? We don't have to name,
Well, the person who left.
Well, the general manager, is that what we're talking about? I don't know. If you're talking about the general manager, there is somebody currently in place in an interim basis, a contract basis, that's booking 2026. There is an RFP out for a general manager right now. I believe there are 27, I'm sure I'm close, 27 applicants. And there will be some interviews during this month.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't, we heard that the person that left, I'm trying to be diplomatic here.
I understand. I just wanted to make sure, because, that's not the only person that's, yeah, right, got it. Yeah.
Here to help take on the future of 2026, and we hadn't heard anything.
Yeah, there is a person in place. As a matter of fact, there was a person in place 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
I would say.
So it's a contract or a contractor?
Yeah, this person is a contract employee.
Okay, well, you can give us more detail at the next meeting.
Sure.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
New business. Okay, council comments restricted to 3 minutes each. We'll see what we can come up with, all right?
Madam President.
Go ahead, Councilor Maddox.
I just want to say thank you again to my council colleagues and just let the residents know it's been an honor to serve the community. It's just been a blessing to be able to work with you on so many issues and meet so many of you in the neighborhoods. And so I just again want to say thank you again. And while I'm sitting here tonight, I just want to again shout out Susanna, our former city manager. That I don't know why, but I just feel like telling you that many people have asked why in the world, no matter who has come and gone on this council and everyone else has switched seats, why I refused to move out of this seat, and why I kept moving even though I had the ability to move closer to kind of into the president's seat and be closer up just based on my longevity. And it's because this is the only seat I know to sit in, and it's because of you. Susanna came in when I was 12 years old in the Monticello Middle School and told us that we could apply to work for the city of Cleveland Heights in the CHORE program, and I did just that. After I started that program working in the Serve Seniors, I came here to pick up my first check, and Susanna's office was right down the hallway. I came in at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and this door was propped open just a little bit. And so at 12 years old, I peeked my head in, and there was a gentleman here mopping the floor. And he asked me if I wanted to sit in the seat. And so he walked me around and put me in this chair here. And he said, one day you might get the opportunity to serve, and I hope you do so. Just remember this word called integrity. And I remember that as I walked out, Susanna saw me at these steps, and she said that the important thing about serving is recognizing that you understand and you serve this city from the bottom up, and that you respect the people that may not see, but they make the world go round here. And so I've been able to learn that from working in planning, working as a planning commissioner, and then parks and property, and then again, serving since I was 12. So this seat for me means a lot. It's allowed me to be able to serve you. I tell people all the time, this was never my seat. But I definitely appreciate you giving me the opportunity to serve and sit in this seat. But this has always been the people's seat, and it always will be. And I'm looking for the opportunity to continue to serve this city that I call home. But I want to take this opportunity again to just tell my colleagues thank you, tell the residents thank you for giving me that opportunity, but also to tell Susanna thank you for opening up that door for me to experience this city and exposing me for something that I didn't think was possible. I'm in this seat because people in this city hall came into that city and into our schools and said, I can see you there. There's possibility there. And so I appreciate that opportunity to be able to see the world in a much broader place and learn and serve you in so many different departments. And so thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councilor Maddox. Anyone else? Vice President Russell.
It's going to be very short because I'm going to save my comments for my very last meeting on December 15th. So I hope you all come and join me and Mr. Maddox for our very last meeting and to tell us farewell and wish us well. So to that is my comments, and you know you're sitting in that seat because you was being contrary.
All right. It sounds like we're okay for the president's report. Okay. It's been an interesting meeting this evening, so thank you all for hanging in there out there. Applications for Jim Petrus's vacant council seat open today, December 1st. You have until midnight, December 15th, to submit your applications if you'd like to be considered for this appointment to City Council. The application form is on the city website under City Council. It's so please get it done before the 15th at midnight. The severance rezoning legislation will continue to be discussed by council. Important upcoming dates have already been stated, but I'm going to state them again. I want everybody to realize you have opportunities to listen. All of these meetings will be broadcast. Vice President Russell's Planning and Development Committee meeting tomorrow is at 10:30. Well, it sounds like we'll be starting at 11:45 on, if not sooner, yeah. The 7 p.m. December 10th meeting of the Planning Commission, a public hearing on December 15th at 5 p.m. Council may have one more meeting in December, by the way, just, you know, on severance rezoning if we need to. And I also would like to say, somebody has their last meeting tonight with us because Councilor Petrus is going to be gone on the 15th and won't be here on the 17th. Oh. So thank you, Jim Petrus. He'll be remote, so he'll be available on Face, but I appreciate your work ethic and your willingness to work with us on all the projects and the city business that you've participated in for 2 years. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best as our new mayor. So I'm not going to say I'm going to miss you, but I'm going to miss you sitting in that chair. So thank you, my friend. And as that is stated at 9:43, I'm adjourning this meeting.